Kentucky's governor says that the death toll from Friday night's tornadoes is likely to climb, quote, north of 70 victims. Severe weather and storms tore through much of the Midwest, from Texas to the Great Lakes. The storms produced at least 18 confirmed tornadoes. Kentucky was hit especially hard. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear declared a state of emergency. He says the damage in his state is historic.
This will be, I believe, the deadliest tornado system to ever run through Kentucky. Now, earlier this morning at about 5 a.m., we were pretty sure that we would lose over 50 Kentuckians. I'm now certain that that number is north of 70. It may, in fact, end up exceeding 100. Everywhere along the line of this tornado that touched down and stayed down for 227 miles, over 200 in Kentucky, has been severely and significantly impacted.
FEMA has been deployed to assist with the response. The storm is also responsible for deaths in other states, including an Amazon facility in Illinois and a nursing home in Arkansas. The president has spoken with the governors of impacted states, including Arkansas. And joining us now on the phone is Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson. Governor, first of all, our condolences for the loss of life and the devastation in your state. We really appreciate you being with us at this tough time.
Well, thank you. And it is tough anytime you lose life. And we experience tornadoes from time to time in Arkansas, but never anything like this at this time of the year. And today I went through Monette and a couple other towns in northeast Arkansas that were severely hit. In Monette, a nursing home was struck, and it's remarkable that of 67 residents in a structure that was totally demolished, that we only lost one life in that facility. And it's really a reflection of the fact that we did have an alarm that sounded 20 minutes early, our warning siren that gave them time to take some level of protection, and that helped a great deal. So preparation makes a difference, and we feel for Kentucky with the extraordinary damage that they suffered. We had a good call with the President of the United States, and of course he offered assistance and a quick response and to cut through the red tape if that becomes a problem.
And Governor Hutchinson, you mentioned, and our viewers were looking at the nursing home in Monette that was hit as you were talking about it. We've heard conflicting reports that there was one fatality, two fatality there. Can you confirm for us exactly what is the latest that we know in terms of deaths and other injuries in your state, and updates on how others who were in particular that nursing home, how they're doing?
In terms of the nursing home, there was one death there. There was another death in another city called Leachville, a small community in which a person died whenever the business location was struck. So we have two confirmed deaths at this time. There's others that are in the hospital that are being treated. We hope that they have a recovery, but I can confirm two at this time. In terms of the nursing home, there were 67 residents, about 11 staff. A number of them were hospitalized, but all of them have been transferred to other nursing home facilities, are being well taken care of. The response in the middle of the night of the community to help with that terrible situation with very vulnerable residents there made all the difference and helped protect their lives.
It really is incredible, those first responders and what they do. We know that there were multiple sightings of tornadoes in the northeastern part of your state. Can you tell us anything more about how the recovery and cleanup efforts are going, when people should expect that power might be restored, folks who have lost their homes, what different types of assistance is being offered to them?
Certainly, and we have last report about 20,000 Arkansans that were without power as a result of the storms. I declared a state of emergency to assist in a quick response and to get the power restored. We hope that moves quickly. In terms of the residents, right now it is making sure that they have shelter. making sure that they have the human needs that are necessary, and then the cleanup starts. And FEMA will be on the ground doing the damage assessment. We're encouraging everybody to make sure their losses are reported so that we can properly document the loss and most likely qualify for a federal disaster declaration that will bring additional relief. I have declared a state disaster, and we'll be doing the assessments in the coming days. Right now, there's just scores of volunteers, hundreds of people that are willing to help neighbors. That's what Arkansas, but also America is about. I've had calls from multiple governors offering assistance, and so the help is there. It's just a matter of responding and getting the work done.
Glad to hear there's so many people who are interested in pitching in. I know that all of our viewers, I'm sure, are joined in that feeling that we're at least, at a minimum, sending our prayers. And if there's more that we can do, go ahead and tell us, because really the devastation is so significant. And Governor Hutchinson, you mentioned neighboring Kentucky and so much of the devastation there in Mayfield is just about 4 hours away from the border of your state. You've been speaking with other governors. Have you spoken with your counterpart in Kentucky? And even as you're dealing with the problems in your state, is Arkansas offering assistance to the devastation there in Kentucky or any place else?
Absolutely. I have spoken to Governor Beshears and both the other governors on the call, including Governor Lee of Tennessee. We all offered assistance to him, and I believe Governor Pritzker of Illinois has sent search and rescue teams there to assist in Kentucky. We will do the same, and that's what governors do. That's what our neighbors do, and we're all used to tornadoes, just not this time of the year and not this devastating in terms of the four-state impact that either one tornado or a system carried out last night. But anything that Kentucky needs, we're there to offer assistance in addition to what we're doing here.
Well, as you say, that's part of what America's about. And in the moments of crisis, we like to believe that the party affiliation all falls away, and then it's just people helping people. We know that isn't always the case, but it's nice when there are reminders of that humanity. Governor Hutchinson, before I let you go, you mentioned that you've spoken with President Biden. What have you heard in terms of, you said that he was willing to cut through any red tape. What specific help do you need from the federal government? And then also, as an extension, what can any of us who are listening and want to help do for you?
Well, in terms of the president's call was important because he allows me to be able to tell the people of Arkansas that he cares, he listens, and he will be responsive. In terms of what we need from the federal government is a quick damage assessment so that we can show that we have met the threshold so that the individual assistance can flow, public assistance, which is critical anytime we have a disaster like this. So we as a state will put up the assistance that's needed, but whenever we get to such a high level, the federal government's resources are needed. Obviously, if we need other things from search and rescue to other specific items, FEMA will be responsive. The FEMA director was on the line as well. And so the resources are really not the challenge right now because people are there to help. The federal government is our backstop for it. So it's just a matter of taking it methodically through each step of debris cleanup to making sure that humanitarian assistance is there when needed.
Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, thank you so much for joining us. Of course, we are thinking of all of you there.
Thank you. Thank you for the call and letting everybody know of the challenge we face. Thank you.
Absolutely.